All right, welcome everyone. This is the On the Line podcast. I'm your host, Noel Alberto, with my co host on the other side of the pond, Oliver Dixon Jefford. Oliver, how are you doing today?
I'm very well. How are you?
Good, good. A lot of traveling. Got to enjoy tennis on campus nationals at the beautiful USTA National Campus down in Orlando. So a lot tanner, but a lot more tired at the same time, too. But quite the experience. But yes, but tennis did not sleep. As you know, we obviously I said I went to Orlando, watched the tennis on campus nationals, which, and then we had the WTA take place with their first red clay events of the season in Lugano and in Bogota. So we're gonna start in Lugano, where Elise Mertens, the second seed, won the title over Arena Sabalenka, and now Mertens is inside the top 20, ranked at 17th. So there was a lot of rain in this tournament, and a lot of players had to go double duty. So pretty impressive that Mertens won pretty comfortably after a tight first set over Sabalenka.
Absolutely. I think a lot of tournaments last week were affected by bad weather. I know, obviously, here was in Bogota as well, and in Marrakesh for the men. So it's quite amazing how all three of them managed to get done in time. But yeah, another fantastic week for her. Obviously, she had a great start to the year, title in Hobart. Obviously, semi-finals of Australian Open. Hadn't done too much since then, but top 20 debut now. Obviously, this is her third WTA title. And obviously, I think top 8 on the road to Singapore in April, which is very impressive. It looks like she's going to have a real breakout season.
I mean, yeah, like you said, she hasn't done much really since that nice run in Australia. But I feel like that clay is her best surface. Wouldn't you agree with me?
I think she's certainly comfortable in it. I mean, if she has a great game, so I think she can be an all-court player. But she did reach the final in Istanbul last year as well, where she lost to Citalina. I think she reached the French Open third round as well, where I think she might have come up against maybe someone like Venus Williams. I know she played Venus Williams at Wimbledon. I think she might have played her French as well. Let me have a look. I know she beat Gavrilova in the first round there, and Gavrilova was a seed. So that's an impressive result. Let me double check, see if I can find. Yeah, she lost to Venus at the French Open last year in the third round after beating Gavrilova and Rachel Hogenkamp. So yeah, she has picked up a couple of solid results on clay, and obviously having reached the semi-finals in Melbourne, she'll be confident having a good French Open. Obviously, still quite a few tournaments before then as well.
Yeah, there's still Stuttgart for the ladies, then obviously Madrid and Rome. So chance to pick up some big wins for Mertens. So yeah, another talking point is Mladenovic. She had the nice run in February in St. Petersburg. Did well a little after that, but seems to be struggling again.
Yeah, I mean, obviously she retired here, and obviously clay's not a surface where you can take any risks really. But yeah, I mean, I think she's got herself out of that rut. I mean, she's not gone straight back to her best yet. Might take a while, but I think obviously she had to prioritise her health here. She's got finalist points to defend soon, so I think obviously that's her priority.
And in Madrid as well.
And in Madrid, yeah. So I think she has no point risking it. I mean, it's unlikely she'll defend both of them, but if she's there and like you said, she did snap that losing run, she's likely to pick up a few wins there. And obviously she has quarter-final points at the French Open, so obviously she needs to be ready for this clay season.
Yes. Speaking of ready for the clay season, we had a familiar name back in the winner's circle or just back in the spotlight in Colombia, which is Anna Karolina Schmiedlova. So we talked before this podcast that she had said great, I believe 2015 it was, and then went on a huge losing streak in 2016. I believe it was like 16 straight tour level matches, but then comes through and wins the title, and now back inside the top 100.
Yeah, I mean and her 2015 season was very good. I mean, she won her first 2 WTA titles. I think she finished the year about 25, 26th. I mean, like you said, unfortunately, she was unable to match that the past 2 seasons. As you said, had a horrible start to the 2016 year. But yeah, I mean, considering this is another tournament, there's a lot of disruption weather-wise. It was very impressive that she's able to come through and look at actually she's I think beat Falcone in the first round. Falcone, I think, won this tournament, or in Quito won before. So she could be a good clay court player. And then beat 2 seeds in the final stages, Anna Bogdan in the semi-finals, and then Lara Arruabarrena, who was a finalist last year as well in the final. So yeah, very good run for her, and it's nice to see her back. Like you said, kind of in the spotlight, playing some good tennis again. And it'll be interesting to see how she fares throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, maybe she'll get some, qualifying chances at those bigger events that we just said, and who knows, maybe this will really kick up her confidence, and maybe she'll get back into what we saw her as, maybe top 50, top 40 if everything goes right.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, she's picked up this result, which is undoubtedly going to give her confidence. I'm just looking, she's reached the 3rd round of the French Open before, back in 2014, before she even had that real breakthrough. So she could certainly play well on clay. It'll be interesting to see how she fares across the clay courts in terms of whether she's able to get through qualies or anything. So yeah, it's interesting. I think she's back up to 84th now, like you said, in the top 100. As you said before the pod, I think, did you say 48 spaces she rose because of that title run?
Yes. So now we move on to the men. So as you said, Marrakech also had bad weather, and we had your fellow Breton, Kyle Edmund, in his vying for his first title, but it was Pablo Andahar using his protected ranking to take home the title in Morocco.
Yeah, Andahar is the lowest ranked winner of an ATP title in 20 years. He's 355th, and the last time anyone was ranked that low was back in 1998, where Leighton Hewitt won his first ATP title in Adelaide. It's obviously a tournament that doesn't exist anymore, but that was his home tournament, I believe, and he was ranked 500 odd. It's a very remarkable achievement from Andahar.
So he's a team back, man.
Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, Andahar's obviously, he's been out for a long time. He's only came back, I think, a few weeks ago. And have a look, there's beat Joao Sousa in the semis. Obviously, Sousa's a good clay court player. It's come through a section of draw, a half of the draw, which includes like Philip Kohlschreiber, Albo Ramos Vinolas, Robin Haas, all in that half. And they all fell fairly early, and he was able to take advantage of that opportunities. And I think in terms of the final, it was quite one-sided, and that's where his experience showed. Edmund does play well on clay. It's probably a surface that could become his strongest, which is surprising because he's a Brit. But I think, obviously Andahar's obviously so
Spanish.
strong on his surface. He's Spanish, obviously, and his experience kind of shone through there. But obviously, from a British perspective, great to see Edmund back winning quite a few matches. He hasn't done that well since his run to the semi-final in Australia, and obviously, he got the victory through retirement in the first round against Jiri Vesely.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he beat Malik Jaziri, who's played well on clay, quite confident in the quarters, and obviously a big win over Richard Gasquet in straight sets in the semis. So encouraging signs heading into the clay court for him.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Philip Kohlschreiber loss in the top half. He lost to Moroccan player Lamine Wahab, and Kohlschreiber, right after that exhausting Davis Cup tie, I believe it was nearly 5 hours against Ferrer.
I think it's like 4 hours odd, yeah.
Yeah, I believe it was like 4:50 something. Right after that match, he flew to Marrakech. So not a surprise that he kind of went down, even though he did take a first set lead.
Yeah, I think Urab he's ranked 600 odd, isn't he? I think 614th or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Kai Kolchak obviously won the first set 6-2, but then the second was bageled in the second set. So I think clearly run out of a bit of energy. And yeah, we look at that, Urab nearly beat Nicholas Bashashvili afterwards as well. So it would have been some tournament if he'd picked that as well.
Yeah, imagine one of their own into like the quarter or semifinals would have been quite something for Marrakech to see. But now the U.S. Men's Clay Court Championship, Steve Johnson successfully defends his title, defeating Tennis Sandgren in a very entertaining final that went the distance. We had 3 or 4 semifinalists were American. The only one that didn't make it through was Dr. Evo, who defeated Nick Kyrgios in the quarterfinals. But a good sign for the Americans with Johnson. Nice to see Johnson getting some wins, and looks like Sandgren maybe could you think some of these Americans could be a threat on the clay?
I think obviously Johnson won this title last year as well.
Yeah,
and I think last year he reached the third round of the French Open where he lost to Team, which is obviously not a bad loss. Team's one of the strongest players on clay. So I'd be interested to see. I mean, it's interesting. Taylor Fritz did well as well, semi-final. He's not someone I really associate with a strong clay court game.
Agree.
So it could bode well for him. And obviously Sandgren, after reaching the quarterfinals at the Australian Open, really struggled in the South American clay court swing. Don't think he picked up a single win.
Nope, he did not.
No. So yeah, good to see him having a good run. Obviously, nearly winning that final. He won the second set 6-2. So yeah, it's good strong tournament. And obviously, looking at Isner's, Johnson's one quite strong. Beat TFO, beat Isner as well. Obviously, faced all Americans. So I'm going. So yeah, and came from a set down in his first round match as well. Won the second set tiebreak. So yeah, strong one for him. And also noticeable from an American's perspective that Jack Sock and Sam Querrey still struggling, especially Sock. Beat Ceballos, but then lost to Fritz.
Yeah, Sock's been having a poor year.
Hasn't won back-to-back matches this year so far, Sock, which is obviously concerning, considering he's got quite a few points to defend at the end of the season in terms of that Paris Masters win, obviously ATP final points.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Johnson could be the best American hope on clay. I mean, we usually don't associate Americans with clay, and especially ones like Stevie Johnson. Like when we watch him, he doesn't really have a backhand; just really slices it, and it's not really that low slice that would be effective on clay. But maybe this could be a year an American sneaks into the 4th round of the French Open. Who knows? I mean, we've seen Isner make some decent runs in Paris, Madrid before, and obviously he's the only one who's taken the dial to 5 in the French Open. Maybe this could be the year of Isner.
I think obviously Isner did well in Miami. I'm not sure it's going to take off and play. I do agree that Steve Johnson's probably your best shot for a couple of decent runs on clay. It's interesting. Obviously, it's draw dependent. And about whether he could get himself into a good position for the French Open in terms of seeding. Obviously, the likes of Isner and Querrey don't really have the games tailor-made for it. Sock does have the better game for clay, but obviously he's really out of form. So I do agree with you in terms of Johnson being your guy's best shout.
Yeah.
For some wins on the clay.
Mm-hmm. And now with the women off this week, we move on to Monte Carlo, where the first clay masters of the year, and obviously the guy who's the favorite has the 1 next to his name and a Spanish flag, Mr. King of Clay himself, Rafa Nadal, starts his campaign against Alizé Bedene, the former Breton himself, and they've only had one meeting, ironically, Monte Carlo 2 years ago, where Nadal kind of like ended his I would say rut, I guess, where he won a big title, so that was his first Masters in a while. So the 2-time defending champion, and kind of like a bad draw for Nadal, potentially Djokovic or Thiem in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I mean, it's not massively easy. I mean, Team hasn't come into this tournament fully fit. He was forced to save a match point against Rublev. So, assuming he faces Djokovic next, which he could, I mean, Djokovic faces Koric, which is a very interesting matchup considering the form Borna showed over the
form board.
Sunshine Double. I think semi-finals in New World's quarterfinal in Miami, and obviously he's won in Marrakesh before last season, so he could obviously play on the clay. So we just see what happens there. Obviously, Djokovic best performance in a long time yesterday. So I think probably we could quite well be getting a Nadal Djokovic match in that quarters, in which case Nadal would be the favourite. Obviously, you haven't seen too much of him, but he looks good at the Davis Cup. So it's kind of hard to see anyone but him winning this tournament, barring his injury flares up again.
Yeah.
Or a really shock result.
Yeah, he looked excellent in that Davis Cup. I mean, that was his first 2 matches back, and he really, I mean, looked a little rusty versus Cole Schreiber at times, but you expected that. But then you saw in his second singles tie really took it to Sasha Zverev.
Yeah, he was really in control of that match. Obviously, Zverev has run Rome before, so obviously he's someone who can play on this surface, and yeah, Nadal was just in complete control. You can tell that that's a man who's hungry for an 11th Monte Carlo title in the long run, probably the 11th French Open title as well.
Yeah, and an 11th Barcelona title. Could it be the year like last year? It's just the year of the decima for him. This could be the year of the undecima for Nadal if everything holds. But looking at the rest of the draw, who do you think his likely quarterfinal opponent could be? I mean, we have Goffin, but he's been injured. We have Bautista Agut, Feliciano Lopez, and then obviously defending finalist Ramos Vinolas. So, and then Dimitrov is in this second section, but he hasn't played well. So, kind of a bit of a wild card on who Nadal could face if he gets to the semis. And
yeah, it's a tough one to call. It's a really open section, as you mentioned. Neither Dimitrov and Goffin, obviously, they were the finalists at the ATP World Tour Championships last year. Neither of them played that well this year. But I think Goffin has reached the semi-final here before, where he actually lost to Nadal last year.
Controversial call in that one.
Yes. Yeah, so I think he's in with a shout if he's able to pick up his form. I don't think clay is a good surface for Dimitrov. I don't think he's going to find his form straight away.
No.
Obviously, Ramos Vinolas, obviously, finalist, as you mentioned last year. He hasn't been in great form since he reached that final. But obviously, he's won his opening round match, another controversial match between
Jared Donaldson.
Jared Donaldson, yeah. So, yeah, I think, but yeah, it's hard to go. I mean, like you said, Bautista Agut's in there as well. He's someone who's, I think, reached the quarterfinal here a couple of times, at least once anyway. So, yes, I'm going to edge towards Goffin, I think, because I think a lot of his troubles has been due to that unfortunate eye injury he suffered.
Yeah.
So hopefully he's recovered for that and he's capable of some, on this surface, some of good results.
Yeah, and then in the bottom half, so we just had finished matches. So kind of another disappointment for Luca Pouille, who goes down to Misha Zverev, who has pretty much struggled since, his couple big runs last year. So Misha Zverev into the third round, another disappointing loss for Luca Pouille, but probably the favorite to get out of here into the semis would either be Fabio Fognini or Sasha himself.
Yeah, and going back to what you said about Pouille, you talk about him struggling at the big tournaments. He actually reached the semi-final here last year, so that is a really disappointing loss for him. But like you said, I think obviously we could have a Fognini-Zverev third round, which could be a great match. Obviously, Zverev's picked up some form with that run to the final in Miami. Fognini's having a fairly solid year, I think. Not so much up and down as usual. So
a little more consistent than usual for him.
Yeah, so it could be a very interesting match. Obviously, I think both, particularly Fognini, really like playing this surface more than the others. So yeah, so it's going to be an interesting one if it happens. I think it should. I don't think Gilles Muller should be giving too much trouble to Zverev. Zverev's playing well. I think obviously Fognini can be erratic, but I think he should be able to beat Struff. So yeah, I think it'd probably be one of them two to reach the semi-final. I am leaning towards Zverev. So obviously he is slightly more consistent. And
Yeah, and then the last half. So we had Guillermo Garcia Lopez, the lucky loser, takes the place of Pablo Carreño Busta, who withdrew. But then, kind of just like the second section of the bottom half of Nadal's half, this is the bottom half of uh, where Cilic is. Kind of a bit of wild card. So Nishikori came from behind to defeat Tomas Berdych. Then we have Cilic himself against Verdasco, which probably a highly entertaining affair. Then we have Milos Raonic. So kind of like tough to call who could get out of here as well.
yeah, I mean, before the Carreño Busta withdrew, I had him making the semis. So as to read it, it's quite open now. You'd have to say. I mean, obviously, like you said, Edmund's in there. Obviously, haven't reached the final in Marrakesh, but he's up against Seppi.
Down a set right now.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, maybe a little bit tired after that, but yeah, Cilic Verdasco. That's a tough match with Cilic. Verdasco may be the slight favourite for that, considering his clay court experience. Cilic has improved in terms of playing on clay, but it's still not the best out there. But I mean, Raonic struggled early on in his match against Lucas Caterina, who I think is the first Monegasque tennis player I've ever seen. So interesting one for the future. But I think Raonic has played fairly well here before, considering it's clay. Maybe he's in for a shout, because obviously he looks good throughout Indian Wells and Miami as well, playing some of his best tennis in a while.
Yeah, I think maybe if it's, I think I was talking with one of my colleagues yesterday, and they felt like Raonic could be kind of a sleeper here. Do you think that could be the case?
Yeah, I mean, I had him before Carreño Busta withdrew. I had Carreño Busta beating Raonic in the quarters, because obviously Raonic has improved on clay. Still not his best service, but he has improved on it. And I'm pretty sure maybe he was a quarter finalist here once before. I think he's had one decent result here at least. And obviously he's reached the quarterfinals at the French Open as well. So yeah, I think obviously he comes a little bit under the radar, seated down at 14th. Obviously not associated with being a great clay court player, but I think he could have a good run. Yeah.
Yeah, just looking right now, Milos had 3 straight quarters actually in Monte Carlo before he missed out last year. Then 2 quarters in Madrid, back-to-back quarters before going on the third round last year. And then in Rome, he actually has been a former semifinalist. So he's actually, for a big server, not that bad of a result on clay compared to, the other guys.
No, absolutely. And this is an open section. Obviously, there's a few like strong clay quarters, but there's not like a Nadal or Zverev, all people he's capable of beating. If he's able, I mean, obviously he did get off to a slow start, so you have to avoid that. But yeah, have to fancy him to have a shout against either Cilic or Verdasco. Wouldn't be a surprise if he beats either of them. He should beat Cecchinato whenever that match takes place. So yeah, I think he's got a good shot of a fairly deep run.
Yeah, and speaking of another potential wild card here, Kei Nishikori, we know how well he's done on clay before. You think his win over Berdych could really get him kickstarted for the year?
I think so, potentially. I mean, especially because in the way he rallied from a set down, obviously dominated the second and third set, see 2-1. So yeah, I think potentially that could be a good start for him. Obviously, he's got Medvedev next. Medvedev won't be an easy match either, but Nishikori probably the favourite. Obviously, quite solid on clay, like you said. So yeah, I think he's in with a chance of picking up a couple of wins, which would be good for him, because obviously he needs them, having fallen so far down.
Yeah. So yes, so we're gonna quickly make some picks. So who are your? I think you've been over it, but repeat your semifinalists for Monte Carlo.
So I have Nadal and Goffin on the top half, and I'm going to say Zverev, and considering Carreño Busta is out, Raonic on the bottom half.
I will go with the same semifinal in the top half, but I will go Nishikori against Zverev in the bottom half. And then your finalist and winner.
I would have Nadal defeating Zverev in the final.
I will agree with you there. So we predict it undecima for Rafa. Will it be the first of three? You'll have to find out. So later this week and later in the clay season. But now, Oliver, where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at OliverDJ1998.
Find me at Not First Noel. Find the podcast Twitter at On the Line Pod. Find both of us writing for Vavel USA Tennis. We'd like to thank you, Tennis Plaza, for sponsoring this podcast, and we hope you all have a very good day.